Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I wanted to cover this subject because I recently had the displeasure of watching this new Muppets show. I watched the first episode. I figured why not? As a little kid, I kind of came up on the Muppets. A lot of you out there did as well. And I was just curious to see what they did with it. I've been hearing a lot of talk how they were going to make it more adult. And boy, did they. Not only that, it's supposed to be a comedy, and a comedy is supposed to make you laugh, right? No laughs. No laughs in this whatsoever. I really feel like there was such an agenda with this new show that that's all they were really focused on was this agenda of becoming more adult or more edgy. And in focusing so hard on that agenda, I really feel like they forgot that, this is supposed to be kind of a comedy, right? These are supposed to be characters that we care about, we're engaged in. And it's certainly not the same thing, man. It's a real shame, I think, what they did here. Go back and watch some of the original Muppets and you'll see that sweetness, there's still that childlike quality to the old Muppets show. Trust me, in this new one, it's completely gone. And it's a real shame. I literally was sitting there watching the destruction of a childhood memory, the destruction of childhood icons. This new version of the Muppets was inspired by The Office, and it's actually shot in the same way, kind of in a mockumentary style. They tackle a lot of mature themes, such as Kermit's split from Miss Piggy, his affair with another pig, and interracial marriage, even drug legalization. So on the left-hand side there you see Miss Piggy, and that's the original Miss Piggy from 1976. And on the right-hand side, you can see where throughout the years they started to sexualize the puppets. This was Spamela Hamderson. Wink, wink. Pam Anderson, right? And of course, that's the sexy pig in a Baywatch bikini. What they've done with this new show, they've essentially used that same sexy pig. There's a real creepy bestiality type vibe through this whole thing. Here's a message right here that Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy decided to put out on social media, right? But it says, after careful thought, thoughtful consideration, and considerable squabbling, Miss Piggy and I made the difficult decision to terminate our romantic relationship. We will continue to work together on television. Of course, they're pitching the new show here. And in all media now known or hereafter devised in perpetuity throughout the universe. However, our personal lives are now distinct and separate, and we will be seeing other people, pigs, frogs, etc. Who can forget Fozzie Bear, right? He is the comedian that never really had any funny jokes. But part of the funny thing about him is that he was horrible. And as a kid, a lot of us really connected with that. We thought it was funny. He was goofy. But he had heart, He was kind of one of us. It felt like, at least at the time. Well, boy, have times changed for Fozzie Bear. Did I mention bestiality? And this is a picture of just one of the many cringe-worthy scenes in this first episode of The Muppets, where Fozzie Bear is with his really attractive girlfriend and meeting her parents for the first time. Oy vey. This was rough. This was really rough to watch. They tried with some jokes. They threw some things out there. But the whole time I'm just like, it's this really pretty girl hanging out with Fozzie the Bear. Fozzie Bear, man, we grew up on Fozzie Bear, and look at him now. He's all grown up, right? He's got himself a very attractive human girlfriend. Meeting the parents, it just fell flat. It just didn't feel the same. The innocence is completely lost in this new show. And here's Kermit once again with his sexy new girlfriend, Denise, right? But again, more cringe-worthy moments throughout this first episode. Two or three times throughout the episode, there were really blatant sexual innuendo moments between these two. And I'm just like shaking my head the whole time, like, oh my gosh. Literally watching my childhood memory be destroyed before my very eyes. And speaking of Fozzie Bear and just how far they've departed from the innocence of what he once was, there's even a joke in here about Grindr, which is a sex app. It's a hookup app. And Grindr is primarily for homosexuals. This definitely is not your grandma's Muppets. And it doesn't end there. Like I said, they're really, really pushing the envelope, obviously, throughout this whole thing. They even make a joke at one point about legalization of marijuana when they're talking about the band members. So, again, this is not your grandmother's Muppet show, but there was a lot more going on here for me that I was kind of internalizing as I was watching this stuff and just thinking about it and looking back on my own childhood and the things I was raised up on. Now, of course, here on my channel, I cover a lot of stuff like this about just where the world's going, where society is going, and how much darker things seem to be becoming. So overall, as I was watching this, to me, it's just another example of the destruction of innocence, the destruction of purity, that truly it feels like we're living in a time where there is nothing sacred. Everything's getting dirty. Everything's getting dirtied up. There's nothing innocent anymore. There's nothing sweet and pure. And this right here, this new Muppet show, is just a prime example of that. But it's not the only one. It got me thinking of a few more. Let me share some of these with you. Now, really, over the last few years, we've been seeing this stuff really on the rise. Again, it's this destruction of purity, this destruction of innocence. I mean, on another level, it really is watching your childhood being destroyed before your very eyes. But I remember growing up on Sesame Street, and I loved Bert and Ernie, and I had the toys, and I had the puppets, and I used to watch the show all the time, and these were my little buddies. You know, as a little kid, these were my friends. And look at this, just from a few years ago now, Sesame Street's Bert and Ernie celebrate gay marriage ruling. Of course, they have an arm around each other and snuggled up on the couch, of course, insinuating that they're a gay couple. This whole thing had reminded me of something I'd seen a while back. This again is from a few years ago, but you can check it out. It's a really interesting documentary. It's called Toy Monster, The Big Bad World of Mattel. And it shows you what these people were like behind the scenes. And in this right here, I'll just read. Many behind-the-scenes secrets about Barbie's creators are revealed. Apparently Jack Ryan, who was Barbie's designer, was a full-blown 70s-style swinger with a manic need for sexual gratification. And you should check out that documentary sometime. I think you can find it on YouTube. But the dude was, full-blown bohemian, totally debaucherous, right? Totally living like a pagan. But this is the guy that designed Barbie for your children. Here's another really interesting example. You may have heard of this show called Bella and the Bulldogs. It was Nickelodeon's top-rated kids show. It's actually created by a man named Jonathan C. Butler. Now, Butler's previous work, just a few years before this, was a fetish film called The Cuckold, about a sadomasochistic sexual kink in which a white husband, who's the cuckold, watches while his wife has sex with a black man, and in the movie they call him the Bull. So disturbingly, Butler's Nickelodeon children's show also features references, themes, and symbols drawn directly from the cuckold sex fetish. And after being hired by Nickelodeon, Butler joked on Facebook about turning Nick into the Kink Network, posting a photo of himself posing with a giant kink logo and suggesting titles for sex fetish-inspired kids shows. Now, joking about this would have been inappropriate enough for a Nickelodeon employee, but Butler went on to do exactly what he had joked about doing, and made a lot of money off of it too. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that now we have cartoons for kids like this one. This one's called She Zhao. It's about a little 12-year-old boy that turns into the superhero, which is basically him cross-dressing as a woman. Now, I've covered a lot of this children's, quote, programming, okay? And it's called programming for a reason, because it's programming the children. But I've covered this subject in a lot of other videos. I've covered a lot of these other shows. This is just an example right here I wanted to show you. This is from Rugrats. And really, just take a look at the picture there. Do I need to point it out for you? I mean, the picture speaks for itself. And I think you can see what's the baby's holding on to right there and what's going on. And that's really from Rugrats. That's from the show for your kids. Again, your kids are being programmed with this kind of stuff without even realizing it. I mean, all these new modern type cartoons, quote, for kids, certainly are not for kids. And I want to show you a few of the things here. I mean, this stuff has been going on for years with children's cartoons. It's just a lot more subtle back in the day, but now it's, I mean, completely and totally obvious. This is SpongeBob SquarePants, and SpongeBob is a Freemason. Okay, we can see them wearing their fez hats. They have the all-seeing eye, and we see him holding up the horns, right, on both hands. And even that posturing he's doing is as above, so below. I know it's a really hard pill to swallow, especially if you're a mother or a father, and if you raised your kids up on some of these shows without realizing it. This is something that you really need to understand, that this industry, this entertainment industry, the most part is run by Satanists. Oftentimes we refer to them as the Illuminati. But these people really are witches, warlocks, sorcerers on the highest level. And one of their biggest agendas is to destroy innocence, to destroy purity, to program your kids into all these satanic ideas, into this whole satanic way of life. And how about you set the little one down from the TV to watch some Teletubbies, right? Seems innocuous enough, safe, innocent for the kids. Not so much. Once again, these shows that are put out to the public as if they're for the children are filled with this kind of programming. In this case, there was a lot of homosexual type programming in the Teletubbies, and this right here is just one example. And even though you may have been impervious to some of the gay programming in the Teletubbies, it was so out there and so obvious to many people, specifically in the gay community. It's become a big part of a subculture in the gay community to actually dress up as those characters. But that's crazy talk, right? That's all crazy talk. I mean, come on, there's nothing to see here. There's no gay programming. This is just it's a show for kids. A show for kids, right? So I'll leave you with this image. I wanted to show you this one right here real quick as well. Now, this right here is from 1969. And this is from the Children's Television Workshop. It was a bit that they would do on Sesame Street from time to time. You take a look at the placard and look at the very bottom, and what do we see here? We see the goat. We see the Baphomet, right? And you have to ask yourself, why would the Baphomet be on this placard for the Children's Television Workshop? And once again, as I said earlier in the video, that they would hide this stuff a lot better way back in the day. And again, this is what, 40-something, almost 50 years ago that they were doing this? So they would hide this stuff before our very eyes. But as our world has become much more wicked throughout the years, this stuff is manifesting more and more. And this is why now we have these shows coming out right in front of our face, right? And just showing us what's going on. So that's why now we have so many of these so-called children's shows coming out that are filled with, what we call Illuminati symbols or satanic symbols, the symbolism of the beast system. So the truth is, you'd probably be really hard-pressed to find anything really innocent to show your children that comes from the system, that comes from the mainstream. So this darkness, this wickedness has been behind the scenes for a very long time, and again, it may not have been as easy to catch way back in the day, but now we're living at a time where this stuff is manifesting at a really accelerated rate, and they're no longer hiding it. They're just putting it right out there in front of everybody's face. I feel like anytime I start looking for like a children's show and I start looking into it to find the symbolism there, or to see if there's any kind of subliminal messages, or if there's some kind of a darker element at play in the storyline, I always find it. And you really don't have to look that hard, especially nowadays. So anyway, stay aware out there, take care, thanks for checking out the video, and I'll talk to you soon.